Barb has a really, really cute thing to show you. It's adorable. I can see it on the table, and you guys can't. It's awesome. Yeah.
All right.
So I'm gonna let you lead the charge on your really super cute demo. I'm gonna take my stack of stuff back out to the front, and I'll say goodbye for today.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Technique Tuesday. So I'm just going to hold this up. What we're going to tackle today is a very old technique, as in 300 and some odd years old, called corded quilting. I'm going to set that a little bit on the side. Does that show the texture? Oh, it does pretty good. Yeah. Okay. And since I went like, holy cow, it's February already, we have a Valentine's theme. So this is the sample I did up so that you can kind of see some of the things you can do with this type of project. But I'm going to walk you through the very simple steps. So what I'm going to make, we're going to work on these little hearts. Now, what you want to start with is some fairly basic, relatively light colored. You can have a little bit of pattern in your fabric, but we don't want something with a lot of bold colors or bold prints, because it's not going to show your design. So that's why we had Dawn put out all these luscious, ice creamy looking pastels. Gets us thinking a little bit about spring. So once you get your pattern and you get your delicately colored fabric, you want to transfer your pattern onto your fabric. So all you do is you put it behind your fabric, and I pinned it. You saw me take the pin out. Pin it in the right spot, and then take it up to a bright window, tape it down, and trace the design onto the front surface of your fabric with a fabric marker. We're going to be sewing over it, so try and keep the colors of your marker kind of close to your fabric, but as long as you can see it close up, it'll be fine. So on your pattern, I'm going to hold the pattern up so people can see. On the pattern, we've got a solid line and we've got a dotted line. So you're going to draw both lines, because we're going to create that little channel, they're called, where we're going to put our cord. The reason the inner line is dotted is because some cords are this thick, and then some cords are some of the thinner cord that we sell. This is a cotton cord right here. So this is a little bit thinner. If I was going to use the thinner cord, I might want to make my channels just a little bit narrower. Right now, I tested, this is 3/8 of an inch, and that's what we need for the fatter cord that we have. Okay, so we have our pattern, we have our fabric, and we've got our design traced on our fabric. Now, the last thing that we need is a piece of loosely woven backing fabric. And this happens just to be a scrap of our tone-on tones, because they're fairly loosely woven. You could go as lightweight as cheesecloth, but that might not have enough body to push the cording towards the front. So this stuff seems to work pretty good. We're going to lay that against the back of our fabric. So you see I've got backing fabric, front fabric. Wrong sides together. Boy, that's different. For a beginner, I think a fairly open design is probably a good way to start. Something with not too many curves in it. But if you start looking up the process online and you go back to, this is sort of started in the 17th century, some of those designs are so intricate and they're using really, really fine cord. So start with something simple like our little hearts. The nice thing that I found with this is they don't have to be open. You can have enclosed shapes, and I'm going to show you how we get all those things filled up. So we've got our pattern, we've got our front fabric, we have our backing fabric, and we have our design trace. What we're going to do is we're going to stitch on both sets of lines. So we're literally sewing in the channels, or on the outside of the channels. We're creating them. Now, of course, originally this would have been done by hand, and it's still lots of fun to just do a running stitch by hand, but I thought, well, machining works just as well. And I'm using a contrasting thread here so that you can see. So I'm just going to bring up that bobbin thread so it doesn't get in the way. And I'm just using a slightly longer than average stitch. There's that thing. All right. And so I'm sewing on the outside solid line to start with. I'm going to take my time. So this is our first part, and that was pretty easy. I just went all the way around. Now our back part, I don't want to sew across where I've already stitched. So I'm going to start in front of that line, and I'm going to make sure I tack that because we don't want our stitches pulling out. There we go. When I come up to this point, I don't want to stitch through that channel that I made. So now we have our two parts kind of interlocking. There we go. Perfect. Trim some of these threads out of the way. Put that up there so everybody can see. So that's our design. We can take our pins out now. And now we start the fun part. I'm just going to move this machine off to the side, and then we don't have to reposition. So this is the back side of our panel. And I've got a light blue thread on this side. So, how many people will grow guides? So this is the cord that I've been using. And this should fit nicely into our channels. You have to think of this, I discovered, as not pulling this through the whole channel, but what we're doing is we're stuffing this space. So we can make as many little spots as we need to. First thing you're going to want to do, if you've got a fuzzy cord, I'll get one started, is you're going to have to squash down that fuzzy end because that's not going to feed really nicely into your channel. So I just take a piece of thread, get it started, and just kind of wrap it up nice and tight right to the end. And then you can take that thread and thread it through a nice large, look at the eye on that thing here, a nice large blunt pointed needle, or depending on the thickness of the cord you're working with, you could use a bodkin, anything that's not too sharp on the end. So you can see I've got this one prepared. I've got my needle. I've got a good strong piece of thread on there. If you're wondering how strong, you need some good strong thread to pull things with, my go-to is dental floss. Ideally, well, not the stretchy kind they sell now. It can be mint flavored, but you know, the wax dental floss is great for stitching things. Okay, I'm going to start at the bottom of this heart. And I'm going to take my little pointy pair of scissors, and I am just going to cut through carefully just the backing fabric, not through the front. These are my little everyday, what I use in the long arm area. If I was wanting, I didn't bring my Karen K. Buckley. The little fine Karen K. Buckley micro serrated scissors are awesome. Now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go into that channel and push it in as far as it's properly. See, I haven't quite got to the cord yet. I can push a bit more. When I get to there, oh, that's pretty good. Sometimes it's hard to get that started, so you can take the point of your scissors. You can take one of our stiletto tools, anything that will help you get that cord started into the channel. And the nice thing with this process is the back is going to be covered, so it doesn't have to be super pretty. So now I've got that started, and wherever my needle is, and I'm just at the curve, starting into the curve of this, I'm going to make another little slit here. Right, careful not to put my stitching. Good there. The instructions that I wrote out today suggest you start with about an 18-inch length of the cord, because if you have a bigger area to fill, you can just keep adding pieces. So now I'm going to pull that right through out that second hole. Right down. All the way. And I'm going to pull it right down, and I'm going to leave about a 1/2 inch to an inch sticking out there. And smooth that around. Then, the tricky part, you're going to go back in the same opening that you made and come around that curve only as far as you comfortably can. We can make as many of these little spaces as we need to. Cut another little space, pop out our bodkin, and again, I need to give it a little nudge. There it goes. There. Hole. We used to use this on clothing. You got to go back, think, you know, Elizabeth I era. Those heavy, stiff stomachers they used to make. So now when we pull that through, it's okay to leave a little lump out, because if you're working on a project that's going to be washed and you're concerned about the cord shrinking, that gives it a little bit of flexibility. Or you can just pull it right down so that it lays flat. This is decorative, so I'm going to do it that way. Come around here. There we go. So you can see I just trimmed that end off because I'm going to have the opportunity when I quilt this, that's going to get stitched over and fastened down. So there is the first heart done on our design. That looks pretty good on that purple. I like that. Now I still have enough length here that I can do this small section. So I'm going to switch back to the back. Get my little scissors out. And get my piece here. Now if you have a long enough piece of cord and you're threading this way, you can take it right over on the outside. Maybe I'll thread that direction just to kind of give you an idea. So I've done this part. Now I can just jump over that cord there. This one started. And I found when I was doing the other, a good place to make your opening is any place that it's hard to turn the corner. So the top of the curve, for example. There we go. So you can see how that crosses over. And I think with this particular cord, that's not too thick a spot, but I can always have a look on this side. I think that looks okay. That's not too thick right there. I'm not going to get too much further with this piece. So I think what I would probably do, because it gets kind of fuzzy, is start a fresh piece to finish off the heart here. Let's see how it's looking. Look at that. You can see how just stuffing that channel like that is pulling on the fabric a wee bit. But that's what gives it the nice texture there. And here's this piece that I got going on. Let's give it a final wrap or two. Now I'm just using a polyester thread, not my dental floss. I'm going to wrap that. If you were a Girl Guide, you remember how to wrap those lanyards. Okay, tie that, give it a knot. See, tie it off. Yeah, I've got a bit long a thread here. There we go. That's just so it doesn't fall. And I'm going to take my this through there. And you don't want to leave too long a piece of thread. You want to bring that needle up as close as you can, maybe an inch, maximum I would say 2 inches length of thread, because you don't want to go to all the work of stuffing the thread through the channel before you get to the cord that you want to use. I'm just going to tie this. Okay, so a new piece all ready to go. Go back here, and I'm just going to snip that, leave about an inch extra. Go into the same hole. are done. We have a couple of nice little hearts that are all puffy and fluffy. And now from this point, now I can take this and I can put a backing on it, put some batting in and quilt it. If I don't want to quilt it, let's say I want to use this in a cushion and I don't particularly want to quilt the rest of this, I would still want to put a backing piece of fabric on here and then stitch. You can stitch by machine or by hand. Go around the hearts again just to catch these ends because you don't want those gradually working out. But I think it's nice to layer it, quilt it by hand or machine, give it a little extra love, and have fun. This one I did discover. If you look closely at this one, I have hand quilted most of this. I found I could get closer to the channels by hand quilting. I did do a machine stitch through the backing around the outside, and I personally don't care for that look as much, but I left it in so that you could see the difference between the hand stitching and the machine stitching. And from there, it's just up to your imagination what you do with it. That's about all I've got for you today, folks. Stay calm, stay kind, stay safe. Thanks, everybody.